Hi everyone, and welcome to this video about Angular resolvers. Angular resolvers are services that allow to fetch the data before the component initialization. Here are some features of Angular resolvers. Here we want to load post component each time we are going to the post route, but that component needs posts to be rendered and the data will be fetched from the server. To implement this using Angular resolver, we need to create posts resolver, which will be responsible for fetching posts from the server. Then we specify that resolver in our routes configuration, and in our component we can get posts after initialization. This concept gives us some benefit and idea of how to better build our app. For example, we can use our resolver for other components, and we can even add several of them for fetching different data. Without using resolver in a component view, we often need to use ngIf directive to make sure we have the data, posts for example, before we can use them. With prefetched data, there's no need to check that, and we don't need to show a component if we don't have the data to show by it. We can also handle errors in a resolver before showing the component. We move the dependency needed to fetch the data to the resolver. Hopefully you get the idea. Let's implement our resolver in our real example. Here's our app. We are at the moment in the root route and it shows us the home component. But when we are going to the asteroids route, the asteroids component is trying to fetch and show the array of all that asteroid data. In our asteroid component, inside of ng on init hook, we're trying to fetch the data using this subscription, and when we have an array of data, it shows it on the page. Our data is fetched from JSON file. But you can use NASA API for that. Here is the link. Here's our response. We need to look for the near Earth object property in it. And that part gives us two-dimensional array from this object. And then we are going to flatten it using the flat method. As a result, we're going to receive an array of asteroid. In tsconfig.json, I added ES2019 to the lib setting to make TypeScript happy with this method. To implement fetching data in resolver, we need to create resolver, add resolver setting to our route, and specify our resolver, add a resolver to the provider's array. Then access our data in component. And I'm also going to delete this check because we won't need it if we're using resolvers. First, let's create a resolver. We need to implement the resolve interface and use our array of asteroid as a generic type for it. This is what we're going to return by our resolver. Then let's inject our asteroid service to fetch the data. And we need to use the resolve method, which returns an observable of the asteroid array. We need to add our resolver to the providers array because it's an injectable. And we also need to add asteroids property. You can name it anything you want, but to access your data in the future, you need to use exactly that name. And we also specify our resolver. In our component, we can delete unnecessary dependencies and add instead activated route to access our data. The final step is to delete our check here. Okay, let's check our app. All works, but now it loads the data using resolver.